So, let's talk about conventions. If you've been on the channel before, you probably already know how I feel about meetups and conventions. It's a nice little session where you can meet up with friends and people who share your interests. Or potentially a convicted sex offender. While one should worry about who exactly is behind a specific convention, it does also pay to be wary of the people attending conventions as well. Sure, a majority of people might look like they mean well hidden under colorful fox suit number 420, and most honestly are. There are a lot of generous and nice people you can meet at conventions. This video, however, is not looking into one of them. Instead of talking about the friends we can make along the way, we'll be looking into someone it will be in your best interest to avoid if you find yourself under 18. Introducing Daniel Mizuho Lamas. Some may know him as either Growly, Seth8, or Almighty Tora. The reason being the actions attached to these names. Along with being in the furry fandom since 1999, Lamas has a record of being untrustworthy around children, to put it almost criminally lightly. To keep from beating around the bush, Daniel is a twice convicted pedophile. He's most known for sexually violating little boys, denying the doing of so, and befriending others who have done the same thing, to little boys as well as dogs. And despite these multiple convictions, he's been allowed to attend furry conventions as late as May of 2019. I'll explain soon, but first, it makes sense for me to run down what led to these convictions in the first place. For his first offense, we'll be going back to March of 2001, where Daniel and his ex-boyfriend, Troy Gady, had sexually violated a 14-year-old boy multiple times over the span of 3 months. In Daniel's testament, he says he was arrested at his parents' house and later charged with 4 lewd acts with a minor, along with 1 count of using a minor to create pornography. He and his ex made multiple attempts to fight these charges over several months, turning down plea deal after plea deal before finally pleading no contest to 1 act of lewd or lascivious acts with a child 14 or 15 years old. This would lead him to serving 2 years of a 3-year sentence, while also being added to the sex offender registry. Regardless, this isn't how Daniel saw everything go down. Daniel will claim that everything was done by his ex. What he wanted people to believe was that he only got involved in all this because he was sleeping in the same room. While throwing this claim around, he also admits to sending the minor news of himself. Stupidity and degeneracy really do go hand in hand, it seems. Especially since he even tried using this lie on the DA, following his ex snatching the plea deal first. The DA would catch on to it though, refusing to let Daniel get off without him getting charged with something that will land him on the sex offender registry. This would be the only offer Daniel received. The offer having a time limit so that he would be forced to accept it. Because if he didn't, the trial would proceed. And then he'd be even more screwed than the child he no doubt traumatized. You also have a statement from Daniel where he complains about how hard jail and parole was for him, even equating his jail time to volunteering and staffing furry conventions afterward. The last one is most irritating because what he's essentially saying is that volunteering at furry conventions is how he's repaying his debt to society that resulted from my poor actions. Or rather, my inaction. Oh well. I'm listed a minor for months. I'm sure helping the furries out will fix my image. However, this statement was posted in September of 2009. He had been out of jail for half a decade now, finishing his parole in 2007. Why would he feel the need to address something that happened so long ago? Well, according to him, someone on Fur Affinity was doing a little trolling. But if you're familiar with the many mistakes of Fur Affinity's owner Dragoneer, you probably have an idea what really happened. Daniel just couldn't seem to help himself while he was repaying his debt to society. Because soon after finishing parole, you would have Daniel messaging minors on Fur Affinity for nudes. He has fully typed out awareness of the user's age, yet still chose to indulge and ask them for nudes anyways. And with this happening on Fur Affinity, Dragoneer would find out and confront Daniel on the issue. Well, technically. The conversation actually started because Daniel was trying to get Dragoneer to ban someone for posting about his conviction on Fur Affinity. Although Dragoneer would ban Daniel from the site, it should be kept in mind what he was thinking during and after the decision. During their conversation, you have him saying things like, "I am so fucking torn right now," and "I don't want to have to do this, but members of FA staff work in law enforcement." And when he would actually go through with the ban after thinking it over, He would tweet out, "One of the hardest things you can ever do as an admin is ban a friend. A good friend. Tonight I had to, and I hate myself for it." And although I've been put in that position myself after my original video on Dragoneer, I can say no, whether it's pedophilia, zoophilia, necrophilia, any philia. No matter how good a friend is, brushing them off due to some gross behavior or interests really doesn't take that much willpower. Dragoneer wasn't the only one to take note of this either. There was also a crossover with Evie of the Floriverse group. Instead of showing some kind of appall to there being someone on Fur Affinity soliciting news from minors, instead he chose to ask Dragoneer, "Why are you reading his notes?" But why keep your thirsting for minors to just one site? Daniel must have asked himself this because this was not the first time he did this since he was released from prison. A series of screenshots here show a conversation between Daniel and another minor, this time over AIM. The first screenshot pretty much gives you everything you need to know. Here he gives his own age, being 33, as well as asking the minor for their age, that being 17. While I'll spare you the more sexual details, like Daniel spouting his fantasies to someone half his age, it should be mentioned that this was while Daniel was supposedly staffing and volunteering at furry conventions. So it definitely would be a bit unnerving to see the two plan to meet up at a furry convention to carry out, quote, kissing, sucking, maybe yiffing. God, I fucking hate that word. Now, as this was going on, his WikiFur page would be updated with this pile of information. The pile of information he was trying to remove. In his conversation with Dragoneer, he mentioned that he was trying to get into contact with Green Reaper, WikiFur's owner. Well, he eventually would, supposedly by attempting to cover up the information himself, resulting in this lengthy passage here from another site admin. It starts by just laying down the basis. User Almighty Tora is attempting to cover up verified, cited information about himself by continuously undoing a section involving his apparent conviction for pedophilia. The site's owner would put his own 2 cents out there, saying, "You have stated that this information is defamatory. In the US, this can only be the case if it is not true. Would you like to say something about that?" Now, I'm sure some could understand trying to scrub your record clean of a blemish you don't want to think about as you're trying to better yourself. But that's just the thing. You're not going to get anywhere if you keep trying to remove it without getting better. And God forbid you continue to do the same thing that got it there in the first place on, say, July 10th, 2019. On that date, Daniel will be charged with possession of child pornography, but for whatever reason, he would be released on September 26th of the same year. Damn, Daniel. Back at it again with the unrelenting pedophilia. Regardless of how short his conviction was the second time, he was still convicted twice, both times involving real children in sexual predicaments. Why Daniel was even allowed to work at furry conventions after his first conviction left him a spot in the sex offender shuffle is beyond me. But we'll be talking about him and conventions in a moment. It should be taken into account that Daniel isn't very fond of his private past being brought up. He has been documented having multiple slap fights with people on the internet, or just throwing out a less than optimal take every now and then. While there is a lot of stuff to go through, I'll give a quick rundown of each one to save us some time. So first we have Daniel tweeting, "I have just 3 words. Fire Mika Brzezinski." So what could have prompted this tweet? Well, remember that one news clip of MSNBC covering the Midwest Fur Fest chlorine attack, where Micah ran off set after discovering what a furry was?
We just told Mika what the convention was about. She's...
Costumes kept everybody warm was the good news. The hotel was
Where you going?
Contaminated.
Hey!
Guests came back inside at 4 a.m. Police still...
Come back!
Yeah, he wasn't very fond of that clip, to put it lightly. Here we also have a video on Daniel made by a YouTuber for no good reason. He is just a YouTuber, and nothing else, I swear. Well, it turns out that Daniel would have his video removed for privacy reasons. This did happen back in May of 2019, but keep your fingers crossed we don't suffer the same fate over here. Also, I don't believe I explicitly said, but Daniel is also a fursuiter. A fursuiter who will be really offended if you mention how filthy his suit is. He even made a full twitlonger about it, saying how you shouldn't believe the people who say he doesn't maintain his suit, or that he's worn it to cons and has done unspeakable things to people in it. Essentially, the suit doesn't have the best fur used for it. That's all. although he does say that his suit is 6 years old as of 2016, making it 11 if it still exists. That being said, his fursuit is not too appealing to look at, borderline nauseating in my opinion. But what's even more nauseating is his attempts to perform a tactic seen so often, calling anyone who spreads his misdeeds a troll, loser, or Iranian super hacker while complimenting those who shove them off. I wish people knew the truth instead of trying to spread lies about me. I'm happy some people have read and understand what really happened. And as expected with most people who use this tactic, you too can read and understand what really happened. But for those of you who don't feel like reading, I'll give you a short little synopsis.
We're not here to start no trouble. We're legally required to do the sex offender show.
Along with telling a news station that they should watch their language, he also tweeted about losing mutuals over a story someone made up. Notice how he doesn't mention that someone by name, nor does he elaborate on what makes the story they're spreading false information in the first place. As vague as the tweet is, I'm sure you already know what he's referencing if you got this far in. Also, personal gripe, please don't refer to significant others as mates. Get it? Got it? Good. Now, there is also the long trail of incoherent squabbling that is Daniel's Golden State FurCon controversy, but I'd rather you not have to listen to me incoherently babble on for 5 minutes. As much as there is in this controversy, it is just all over the place to the point where it's almost just incoherent garbage between a convicted furry and convention staff. However, speaking of conventions, you wouldn't be surprised to hear that people weren't too fond of a convicted pedophile popping up at furry conventions. The major consensus of the furry community is contempt. An example coming from a twitlonger posted in May of 2019. It starts, "If it bugs you that Biggest Little FurCon is allowing Growly to host an all-ages panel, there is a form letter to send to." They then link a contact form where users can voice their concerns to a hotel as well as the convention staff. There are also Twitter and Tumblr posts from 2018 where users give a synopsis of Daniel's actions thus far, while asking for his banishment from furry events due to said actions. You can even find videos from furry convention attendees questioning his attendance, albeit from a distance.
Instructions.
Why is he here?
What?
Why is he here? What? Why? No.
It even grew to the point where users questioned the negligence of Furry Weekend Atlanta staff, possibly a result of the convention's 2019 group photo. As you can see, Daniel and his fursuit are front and center, much to the dismay of furries online. Among the displeasure, people would continue to spread the reason why Daniel should be banned: his conviction. Some brought up the possibility of boycotting the convention for allowing Daniel to attend. Others brought up how FurCon chairman Uncle Kage was willing to ban ChewFox for discussing the fandom's sexual side on daytime television, but when it came to an actual convicted pedophile, things were a bit quiet. They even banned far-right Milo Yiannopoulos simply for adopting a fursona, but child screwer Daniel Lamas could roam conventions as he pleased. Well, not every convention at least. There are a few who actually have banned Daniel after catching word of his actions, one of them being Anthro Northwest in 2017. Daniel wasn't given the chance to attend as the convention prides itself on being a family-friendly event. They already banned pups and diaper furs from attending, so it shouldn't be a shock that sex offenders aren't welcome either. Individuals emitting an unsatisfactory odor or experiencing an unsanitary condition will discreetly be asked to leave the convention space until they are able to address the situation. Oh wait, wrong one. Those who are banned from other major conventions, or have been convicted of crimes against children or vulnerable adults, must inquire as to their eligibility for membership before attending the convention or participating in any Anthro Northwest activities. Safe to say he didn't take it too well, but there was also further confusion banning him in 2019. While no, this ban didn't directly target him, their policy change did an ample job at keeping Daniel at bay. AAE and FurCon do not permit membership or attendance by any individual who is a convicted sex offender or appears on any federal or state offender registry. Another convention that went to ban Daniel was Golden State FurCon. As mentioned before, Daniel got into a bit of a squabble with organizers of the convention and was later banned from attending their 2019 event. However, that wouldn't stop him from trying to attend a private room party there. Going by this tweet, he was invited by someone else, but will later get reported to convention staff before being escorted out from the hotel. And while there isn't much to find concerning what led up to his ban from FurCon 2019, there was the fact that Daniel was allegedly allowed to attend as a staff member due to providing DJ equipment. I was just told I cannot volunteer at the con this year. This means that someone else will be running the fursuit department from now on. Sorry guys, the trolls have won yet again. While these seem to be the only 4 conventions that Growly's been banned from publicly, there are potentially a number of smaller meetups that have banned him from attending. But the proof is scarce because of them being between more compact groups of people. But it does confuse me how most furry conventions have yet to even try tackling the issue of a known twice convicted pedophile attending their events. Especially when there are children who attend them as well. Sure, you could say children shouldn't be attending furry conventions, and while yes, I do see temporary merit in that, what would that solve long term? There would be less children for a pedophile to prey on, but that still doesn't solve the issue of the pedophile being there in the first place. This video might be focusing on what Daniel Lamas has denied doing in the past, but you could see him as a cautionary tale. Growly isn't the only fursuiting pedophile out there. Maybe the only one convicted twice for being one, but the point still stands. Minors and adults alike should probably be very wary of who they're meeting up with at conventions. Pedophiles and other crime-committing idiots can be lurking anywhere in plain sight, thinking that their fursuit is ample enough cover. Daniel definitely isn't the only one. He's just one who got caught. Twice. And I think that's a good point to end this off on. Thanks for watching if you made it this far in. Like, subscribe, all that usual YouTube crap. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you all next video. Stay safe out there.
How much is that doggy in the window? I do hope that dog is for sale. I must take a trip to California and leave my poor sweetheart alone. If he has a dog, he won't be lonesome.